Three, two, one. I think we are live, Brian.
Cool.
Hello and welcome back. I hope you guys having a wonderful Saturday afternoon. So we are going to have actual Saturday conversation with on and only Brian Quan. Okay, let's begin a big shout out to Brian here. And so Brian is the only person I know. The only person I know really knows the Kafatek coffee grinders. Okay, Kafatek grinder for sure. So I know you have both Kafatek Max and also Kafatek the Conical MC5.
Mhm. Yeah, MC4, but upgraded with the
Yeah,
silicones for
Brooklyn
MC5. Um, I can actually move one of these grinders here if you want. Back, it might be kind of hard to see.
Yep. Okay. The reason why I like to have a Brian on because as you guys know, I just got an MC5 from Kafatek, and I do have some question for Brian. So hopefully we are going to figure things out. Okay. Okay, so again, if you are just joining us, we are having a conversation with Brian Quan from. Actually, now he's working for Xbloom as well. So working for Xbloom.
Yeah, that's my full-time job.
Yeah, Xbloom with a full-time job for sure. Okay, so let's see here. Can you tell me the RPM on MC5? Is that 120, right? 120 RPM?
I think so, but
Okay,
it's not adjustable on that grinder.
that's what.
And also, the I think I technically have like a pre-production Shuricone,
Okay.
but it grinds fairly slow. So I think that's
Yep.
really benefits the flavor profile of that grinder.
Okay. Do you know reason why he went with a 120 over some other RPM?
I think it's because of trying to reduce fines, like.
Yep.
But I think like due to his design or due to it still being like a big conical, it still provides like a very comforting flavor profile. One interesting thing that I've always noted with the Shuricones, and honestly a lot of the 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 Kafatek grinders or like the in-house designs, the shurikens and shurikones,
Yep.
is he really wants to increase the sweet spot of what you're allowed to do. So the thing that I think you may have observed this with your Shuricone is there's a reduction of a lot of harshness and a lot of bitters that you would find in something like a traditional Mazer burr. So like if you still have the niche at all, I don't
Yep.
know the niche, but if you compare something like the niche to the Shuricones, if you push faster flow rates, or if you do something that if you grind way too fine, you'll find that a lot of the errors, the things that you did wrong, are going to be removed. And I think that's one thing that he does. Like it's very interesting.
You know what? I think you made a great point because yesterday I was brewing filter coffee, okay, and I made a mistake. So I was brewing at number 7.
Mm-hmm. That's
espresso.
Yeah.
That's espresso. So I brew. It took me about 4 minutes to brew, but coffee was really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
You think it's gonna be bitter from why the so fine the grind was, but again, the coffee was pretty smooth. Yeah, I think you're right about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So oftentimes in a lot of these shurikens and is like there's usually a very, I would say, silky finish.
Yep.
And I think that's where you will find like the grinder having this large sweet spot. Because for me, a lot of the times, if you're brewing too fine or too coarse, you may experience that in the finish. And when that's kind of just like kind of smoothed over or it's removed, I think that really is why I think there's like a very big sweet spot with the burrs. And I feel like I've been saying this for many months, but it's like if you spend $3,000 on a grinder, I feel like it should be difficult to make bad coffee. Like it should, that's like my thought process there. But Yeah, I haven't really brewed that much filter on the Shuricones. I've mainly done a lot of espresso on it, and the nice thing with the Shuricones is you can. So I like lightly roasted coffee.
Yep.
But sometimes with these lightly roasted coffees, I still want a more traditional texture. Like if I just want to have like a very nice experience taste
Yep.
of coffee, then I think that's the nice thing about the Shuricones is that you will actually be able to you get clarity. You understand the coffee. It's transparent enough, but the rest of the properties in cup really make the experience very enjoyable. And I think that's the really cool thing with those burrs.
Okay, but I mean, so what? Okay, so I've been using it for the last couple of days, and they say you have to do RDT. I don't. I mean, with this one, I don't need it. I
Yeah,
mean, no,
no,
I
you
don't.
don't. You don't have.
Yeah.
I would say with like the flats you definitely do. But yeah, I haven't had to RDT with those Shuricones. But it can benefit potentially, but it's pretty clean. I think.
Okay.
Yeah,
With the MC5, is that the two birds in it or just only one?
there
Because
are two.
what I saw, two.
Yeah. So there is a pre-breaker and then the
Okay.
cutting ones. So the pre-breaker is still, I believe it's still the same between the MC5 and MC4.
Okay.
But basically, I don't know the exact reasoning, but there's something to do with how it changes it changes some of the particle size distribution. Like if you grind coarse, then you grind fine. Like so that's what the first tiny it's like the pancake burr. That one
Yeah. Pancake. Yeah.
is making it really really coarse, and then the rest of the final burr is doing the finer grind. So that's because like the interesting thing is like in my experience I've compared like wait Harry, can you hand me the Mazers?
Yeah.
Okay, I have the original burrs here. So these are the Mazers. This is what originally
Yeah.
came in the MC4, and these you can also find in the Helor Flux hand grinder, and you can find in like I think some of the bigger Mazers, and these
Yep.
give like a very traditional flavor profile. Like these are basically like the niche zero, like very big texture, a bit muddied,
Yep.
which is fine. It's great for medium darks and dark roasts. Um, but with the addition of this pancake burr pre-breaker with the same burrs, it seems like you're able to get a little bit more clarity. So that was the
Yes.
thing that the MC4, like that was the standout point of the MC4 for a lot of people was like you can get a conical burr flavor profile and the workflow and all that great stuff with a bit of clarity. And that was and that was just that addition of that little pancake burr. Like you can compare it, a lot of people have done the same comparison, and I think a lot of people say the same thing. That's been what's been happening in my experience. But because Dennis changed this design, it seems that you can even go. You have a clearer flavor profile, you have better finish, and you have just a even larger sweet spot. So that's been kind of the interesting finding between just the Mazers and the cones.
Yeah, because I've been really brew a lot of filter on my Shoricon, the
Mhm.
MC5, the filter, and I compared that with my EK43. I have the SSP in it.
Mhm.
It seems like my EK has more fines than my MC5 for some reason.
Yeah. Which SSPs?
I got 2015
The
SSP.
cast. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, those will have fines.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, the flavor profile is just very interesting. I think it's incredibly approachable. Like this is the nice thing for me is I liked like it kind of makes picking Kafatek grinders now a little bit more difficult because like you now have a burst set that can give you a great amount of clarity without the pain points of getting a flat burr.
Yep.
Um, and I think that's what's really fun is like if you push, I would say like 3 to 4 milliliters on espresso, like fast flow, like after
Uh-huh.
a pre after an infusion. On a lot of these traditional conical mazzers, it feels like the shots kind of fall apart. Um,
Yep.
Although you can dial that out, of course, but like you can do that with the shurikens, and you can still get all the nice chocolatey or like the flavor profile, like the texture in those coffees. And I think that's what's like interesting to me. But now it makes it. It's like, do you like? I don't know why you would get like sometimes you'd be like, oh well, what's the reason to get a flat max or a normal?
That's right. Okay.
Um, there are like clear reasons, like clarity. I think these still are clear. This still this lets you do some weird stuff, like you can do 1 to 1 light roast coffee. So you can instead of pulling 1 to 3, you can like
Yeah.
pull 1 to 1 if you really wanted to. But I think for me, I like this much more for filter coffee. I think if I was drinking daily espresso, I think something like the MC5 would be more like potentially more enjoyable. But if you wanted that bump in clarity while retaining the large sweet spot and also
That's right.
the silky finish, then you would get flat max. So, but
Okay. So which birds do you have on your flat
I
max?
have the Shuriken light medium, so the L
Okay.
burr set, which is like the standard burr set, and I think they are amazing. These are like probably my favorite burr set currently.
Okay. Because I know you tried a lot of 98 millimeter bird set before.
Hmm.
So that is your favorite so far.
I like this a lot because this kind of goes back to my point of like if you spend a lot of money on a
Yep.
grinder, it should be difficult to make bad coffee. Um, there are times though that if I'm using extremely expensive coffee, like stellar coffees,
Yep.
then I would want maybe a little bit more transparency. But if you aren't always drinking 86, 88,
Uh-huh.
98, what high point coffees, then something like this would be fine. But it like to me, I just recently I kind of just been wanting to I would say turn my brain off when I'm brewing. I know brewing coffee is fun, it's enjoyable, but sometimes like I just want to have a great cup and I don't really want to think too hard about it. And that this is what like this is for me, this gives me like 8.5, 9 out of 10s across the board.
Okay.
It doesn't necessarily specialize crazily in like clarity like some of these SSP bars do, but everything else is great about it, and that's why I like this a lot.
So by the way, is that the Kafatek Max bird? Is that interchangeable with other birds or you're stuck?
So the Shuriken burrs spin reverse to
Okay.
but if you have, so you can't take these and stick them into like your EK. You can stick them,
No.
I think, in maybe the Nautilus, but with this, you can stick SSP burrs in because you can reverse the motor direction. So you can run both SSP and Shurikens in a flat max.
But the other is you cannot use a shuriken burst on my
No,
EK43.
unless you figure out a way to reverse the direction of the motor.
Man, you know what? Dennis is clever guy, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's clever, which means if you want a shuriken burst, you have to buy the flat max.
Yes. Um, you know, he wants to run it that way. I think that's fine. Some people might be upset about it, but like at the end of the day, like, he's trying to have his own company, make his own grinders and all of that. So,
Yep.
I think I don't know. It's debatable. Some people are mad by that. Other people are like, that's actually really smart. So,
It is. And so by this, have you had a chance to visit his factory?
not yet. I would like to visit sometime this year. I've he originally was doing, I think, letting people pick up your grinder, like you could drive over to Seattle and pick up
Okay.
your grinder. But something like COVID changed a lot of that. And then now I think. I mean, I need to reach out to him again, but he did say like, "Hey, you could come by at some point." I would love to go visit him.
So how big is his staff? I heard they're a pretty smart company.
It is. I don't have an exact number, but I've seen like some behind the scenes like videos and photos from some people,
Mhm.
and it kind of looks like a small warehouse with a bunch of machinery. So they make a lot of the stuff in house, and then they have I think a bunch of seasonal workers as well. So like people that they hire like techs to help build the grinder.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's probably like 10, 15 people at max. Like, there's no way there's that. I don't think there are that many people at this company.
So by there, so whenever you buy whenever you buy Kafatek grinder, they send you actual reports.
Yeah.
Okay. And then they did the grind settings. So before they send it, they actually do the test reports. I'm curious about the numbering, Brian.
Mhm.
It's a number 2790. Is that means anything? So that's the one. So far this made 2790 of Kafatek.
Yeah, that should be like you have that number in the run of how. So that means there are probably like 3,000 of these grinders that exist.
Man, so okay, so let's put that in perspective. So there's only 3,000 grinder in the world. Kafatek.
I'm not sure, but probably
Wow. And then you got a two of them.
something like that. But they're like the nice thing with these grinders is like they let you just really enjoy coffee. That's to me like what I want to do is like I would, as much as I like some of the SSP burrs, and I'm still thinking about getting like an SSP burr for this, or getting another grinder for like 90
Okay.
brewing burrs. Um, I just feel like I just don't want to have that experience of like, oh no, I put 20 grams of like some really really beautiful coffee and I like mess something up, and then the coffee tastes terrible. This really saves me in that aspect. So it's very approachable for me, and that's why I really like the Kafatek stuff. Um, Also, for me, the one big thing about this is that it is made in the USA. So
Yep.
like I felt very comfortable with purchasing one of these grinders. There are like all these grinders are great. Honestly, they probably all perform the same at like the $3,000-$4,000 price bracket. The rest of the things that I consider when thinking about buying one of these is like the relationship that you get with the manufacturer. And the really nice thing about this is that I feel that if anything goes wrong, I can send it back. I can ship it within the country. Uh, we have had I've seen other companies like Option O, for example, or stuff like that. Is just it's harder to deal with if you need to send a unit
Yep.
back to wherever it is. Um, and then that's because a lot of these companies don't have distributors, right? They're not working with like wholesale companies. Although like Option O did sign something with like the P64, which I feel like they regret doing something like that, because they do D2C for all the other grinders. So, but yeah, like I know a few people who had problems with some of these companies, and it's hard when the company's in Asia.
So by the way, so what is your perfect pairing? Max and MC5. That's your perfect pairing for you.
Max and P100.
Oh, P100.
Yes. So what I would do is I would run the Max with the Shuriken LM burrs and
Okay.
100 with the Brew 98 Brew. I think this offers the most contrasting experience in brewing and in espresso, especially from a clarity presentation. Um, Brew burrs, 98 brew burrs are the clearest and most transparent burr I have tasted, and also I've had
Okay.
people confirm that as well. Shurikens are much more rounded, they're much silkier, they have a finish to them. Brew burrs are like sharp clarity and then in
Yep.
drop off. 90 these Shurikens have like a very nice, gentle, silky finish, but they're not as clear. But it also means that you can't use like that means you shouldn't use some coffees with 98 brew. You shouldn't use some coffees with this. But if you had both of those, you would be able to cover the entire range both in espresso and in filter coffee. I've honestly been drinking a lot more filter recently, so
Okay.
um, I think that is what I would pair with. Um, I I do like conicals, but I think it's because I've been drinking too much coffee from conicals recently that I've fallen. I've kind of just been like, I want higher clarity. I want
Okay.
more silky presentation. So that's been what I mean. It's because like for my work, like our grinder in the work in the Xbloom is a conical burr, and it is amazing. But like I like the grinder in our machine, but because I've just been drinking, like I have to drink that coffee for regular work. For my personal use, I'm like I want something very different. Um,
Okay. So by the way, so what are you using for brewer lately?
I've been using these two a lot, like the April and the
Okay.
Oria.
Oreo. Okay. You are using the apron. Which paper are you using on the Oreo?
I have been using a mix of the just normal Kalita 155s. I've also
Yep.
been doing negotiator with Kafatek Abaca, the V60 papers, and then some of these the actual April paper filters as well. Because I have the small Oria, so not
Oh, you okay? You got the version 2, right? Is that version 2 then?
the version 3, but this is the
But smaller one.
like this is super tiny, so not that many things can fit into this.
So you are using the 155 paper rather than 185.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's been my experience with this.
So by the way, I'm curious about your coffee. I mean, how it's come about?
Oh, how did I like uh the say coffee or
Yeah. I mean, goodness. I mean this coffee here. I mean that's a big deal.
yeah. So that is I have a box somewhere here. Anyway, that is or yeah, this is my tiny yeah. So this coffee is basically the I'll tell you like how this came to be is my favorite roaster, like personally,
Yep.
roaster is Say. I think Say does a fantastic job mainly on the sourcing end. So the
Yep.
way that they pick coffees is actually quite stringent in my opinion, and that means that the quality is up there. But more so like it was my experiences in going to their cafe that really helped form a lot of my personal opinions in coffee. But more so, like I went to their cafe and I was like, this is a space and with people that really value coffee. They see that coffee is valuable and it shouldn't be cheap. Like good coffee should be valuable. And I think like there's like a whole entire conversation on like the perception of value of coffee
Mhm.
and why it is the way it is, especially in the United States. We can talk about that at some point in time, but basically, I really enjoyed the coffees and the presentation, specifically for me in their roasting style. The way I think about say coffees is the specific way that acidity is presented in the coffees. Um, we are talking like very complex acidity, layered acidity, and I think it doesn't mean that the coffees are necessarily sour, but it's just like their coffees are very interesting. They're very transparent. And they're very representative of the producer, origin, terroir, like the whole entire supply chain of coffee. I think like drinking their coffee is very representative of the work that has gone into this. Um, and I've spent a lot of time with them. I really like I at least in some of the enthusiast communities, like on these discords and all of that, like where I personally exist in the hobbyist community, like
Mhm.
I really enjoy talking about say I put it out there to people and um basically I was like, oh, it's my birthday, I would
Yep.
love to do a collaboration with somebody, and personally the ones that like I want to do with my favorite, and
Yep.
favorite is say. So I reached out and they were and I was like, do you guys have anything interesting coming along? So what they did is they had this La Palma Il Tucan. So this is the bio-washed Citra. It is absurdly expensive. They only had about, I think, 88 boxes or 85 boxes in total of these. And I worked out I bought these. Like these are, they didn't give these to me for free. Like these are expensive, and I wanted to just be able to share that with people. But I did, try the samples of some of their coffees, of like potential collaboration coffees, and this went back to, at least we before we hopped on this call, was like I wanted a coffee, like as much as I love beautiful clean wash coffees,
Mhm.
they're actually kind of difficult to taste at times, or like it's just like, oh, this tastes like tea, okay, great. um with this coffee, there's like, you don't need to have the best palate in the world to taste it. You can clearly taste that it is like, this is, wow, this is what coffee can be.
Yep.
um but like, you don't necessarily need to have the best palate in the world to be able to taste that. Although, like, if you do have a better palate and you do have better coffee understanding, you will see more interesting things in this coffee. But normal people can enjoy something like this, which is awesome for me. But yeah, I reached out to them. They're like, hey, there's only so much of this,
Yep.
you let us know. And they're awesome. Lance and Tobin, great guys, and we were able to pull this off. It's just a card. They were very flexible on like the colors and the logo and all of that. But I'm definitely looking forward in the future to be doing more types of things like this with. I would love to do more with Say or with other
Sure.
roasters, but the it's like, it was just fun, and I really really appreciate that. That is the, yeah. I'm just like, there. That's how it happened.
By the way, if we have people just joining us right now, we are talking to Brian Quan from Xbloom, and also a YouTuber as well.
YouTube, Xbloom, lots of coffee.
Xbloom. So the Brian is, up and coming. Okay, up and coming, the big star. Okay,
Yeah,
I have to say,
one day,
big star.
hopefully.
Oh,
But no, like,
okay, so what's going on with the Xbloom? Is that okay? Is a lot of hyped. Okay, last year.
mhm.
So right now, they're wonderful machine. When you gonna be start shipping it out? Do you have any information on that?
So actually, the first units arrived at people's houses yesterday.
Oh, perfect, good.
So work related, we shipped out 100 of them, and
Okay,
now they're coming from our factory in China, and then the coffee is coming from the Bay Area here, and we kind of are seeing what happens. There is an Xbloom
okay,
Discord as well, but basically
okay.
my role, my work there is all for, I manage the coffee product there.
Yep.
So essentially making sure that the coffees look great, they taste great, the boxes and all of that are sorted out. But I'm putting together like a bunch of things. I would say that what would be interesting about this machine for a lot of people is the convenience aspect of like a pour over. What mainly interests me and like why I work there is that we are trying to elevate the bar of coffee, like quality of coffee. So it sounds like a lot of money to some folks, but like our coffees are going to start at $1, right? And like when you compare that to something like Nespresso or K Cup, it's like that is like a potential 5 to 10 times price increase, right? So like, oh my God, you're spending $1 on a cup of coffee. Wow, that's crazy, right? But I want to get people started on these like nice coffees at $1 to two
Yep.
dollars. Realistically, what I want is I want people to like be drinking these types of coffees. Like these, like a single cup of this is gonna be like $10, right?
$10. Yep.
Yeah. So like, and I think it's because, well, there's a whole other conversation about this, but it's like I want people to understand that coffee should be valuable, and I want people to understand that like there are many other flavors in coffee aside from just like dark bitter charcoal stuff like that. But it's because I think coffee brewing is unapproachable. I think it is a huge barrier to entry. Like if you want to learn how to, like, you can learn how to do wine, like like tasting wine or tasting alcohol. But then you look at coffee, and it's like, oh yeah, you gotta buy this. You have to then learn how to do these, right? Like that's my kind of gripe with that. And then on top of that, you then have to learn how to taste. So instead of it just being learn how to taste, it's now you have to learn how to brew. And then you find out in brewing that messes up everything. If you mess up, your coffee tastes different, right? Like there are a lot of variables there. But it's like I want people to skip that at some point and just get to like tasting and understanding coffee. And then if you enjoy this experience, then you can get into something like this. But that's like my personal like vision with this product, and like why I'm working there is like I think there are just a lot of problems for consumers in coffee, and like a lot of it has to do with brewing, like how you add water over coffee changes the way things taste, which is very annoying, very interesting, but also very annoying for normal people. So that's like my like personal like vision in some of these things is like here are some problems that I've seen. How can I solve them?
Yep,
Uh,
there we go.
but that's like the thought process that I have whenever I talk about Xbloom and why I'm working there. If anyone was wondering.
Right, because again, I mean, you're gonna get with the Xbloom, you're gonna get the consistency, right? It's
Right.
duplicatable, day after day. Comes to if you're brewing yourself, it's all dependent on the technique that day. Okay, based on your water temperature that day, depend on
Yeah.
your mood.
Like at the end of the day, you're human, right? Like um you're going to be inconsistent,
Yep,
and machines are just much more consistent.
yep.
And I think i I think like it's controversial to say stuff like that, especially in coffee where it's supposed to be an art, it's supposed to be a craft. But like at the end of the day, for I would say outside of this specialty coffee bubble, a lot of people don't care about craft. But I want people to care about specialty coffee taste, right? Like I think the taste and the experience is a lot different. And like this is a great, I think, entry point. And then like you can then learn about the craft, like
That's
then
right. Okay.
oh yeah, there is a lot of beautiful art with how you add water over coffee.
Yep.
But I think to a lot of normal consumers, you're just like, I don't know what that is, I don't care about that, but I care about the taste. Like if you look at coffee purchasing, you're like, most people buy based on flavor notes or roast level, right? They're not going to buy based on like or it's just like they're not even thinking about like how do I add water over this.
I think the Xbloom has a good business model. You guys are going after that 90%. Okay, 90% of the people, not
Yes.
that 10%.
Right. I mean, like there's literally like 100 million more people that don't
Yep.
want to brew coffee like the way we brew. But if you get more people who just like they start with an automated solution, great, but like they understand the taste of it. I think those are the people that I personally want to nurture into doing stuff like this, because this is what I truly enjoy. I love making coffee at home, but I also realize that making coffee at home is very inconsistent. It's very difficult, and like yeah, it's just unapproachable for so many people. Um, I don't even, it's not even necessarily financial barriers with brewing coffee at home. Like people in my previous work, right, at Fellow, it's like, great, we can sell kettles, we can sell grinders, but like teaching somebody how to use those tools is very difficult.
Yeah.
You have to have a mindset. Like you have to be crazy, like me, like you, to like want to do this, right? And for a lot of people it's just inconvenient, and it takes too much time to learn unless you want
Yeah.
to be right, like you it's like, do you really want to turn coffee into a thing, into
Yeah.
like
No,
right?
I mean that's only 1%, right? 1% of the population. One.
Absolutely. We are
Okay.
what
I
you and
mean,
I do, and what a lot of people who
yeah,
watch these videos, like
yeah,
we are like a so small, we're not even 8% like
no,
of
I don't. Yeah, you know what? I think you are correct because it's not even 1%. The fact is, you know, I mean, you guys, the people watching you right now, you guys are the one drink the finest coffee in the world. Okay,
yep.
the other 99% of the time, they'll be perfectly happy, get the K-pop, one of those pot coffee
Yep.
in the morning, and go to work.
Absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with that, but like that's the thing. That's like the reality of I think most coffee consumption, at least in America. But it'd be cool to see like more people who try these additional coffees, like these interesting coffees, these very special coffees. And I think removing the barrier of brewing is a big one into getting there, because then coffee can potentially be more like wine or more
Yep.
like tea. Well, tea has brewing, but like wine, like I think it's very interesting. I think the things that I say, like there are gonna like people think that's controversial to say like, oh my god, I want people to like be able to enjoy coffee without learning how to brew it. Like
Yep.
I don't um, but we've seen companies try. We've seen companies like Cometier try. Um, Honestly, I think Cometier, like the flavors of Cometier, it's fine. It's great. Um, and it's closer to something like wine, where it's like you can just like pop one in
Yep.
and um, but we find out that uh, running a business is hard, and what Cometier didn't. They experienced a lot of problems recently, but like they were making people spend $2 on a cup of coffee, which is like absurd, right? It's like for normal consumers, like you're crazy if you're asking me to spend $2 on coffee, right? And like I think that's something that is interesting to see, that there are companies out there trying to push the bar of like, well, yeah, you are going to have to spend $2 on a cup of coffee, right? Like, and it's just because like I often think about um, like why I even got into home brewing. Like I got into home brewing to save money. It's because like I didn't feel like it was worth it to spend money on at the coffee shop.
Yep.
Um, but eventually, like I feel like if we thought coffee was more valuable, like if you knew more about the story about coffee and you could taste it, then you would think that it is worth it to spend more money on coffee. Like if you just think about spending a glass of like buying a glass of wine at dinner, 10, 15, $10, hopefully it's good, 15, all the way up to like 500, 200, like 100 to whatever, right? It goes up and up. And you tell the same thing to a normal consumer, like at least in the US. Would you spend $10 on a cup of coffee? There is so much more price sensitivity there. People don't like, they're like, no way. I don't think coffee is that valuable. But then you look at it, you're like, but then like my perspective is like, oh my God, there's so much work that goes into this. And you look at it's like you're telling me this hand picked fruit in the middle of nowhere in these harsh climates that should only be worth like a few cents, right? So there are a lot of problems. I went on this huge tangent, but like that is basically why my personal interests kind of align with the work that I'm doing. But more so, it's just like there's a lot of work to be done.
You know, I think it's all about education too, right? So people like you out there spread the word, okay, and they start appreciate the fine coffee. You know what I mean? Because kind of like like Xbloom is like the gateway to getting into specialty coffee, and if you like it, now you have a total control of what you're gonna brew.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
you're gonna buy the grinder, you're gonna buy the brewing system you like. Start playing. So
Hmm.
when times come, now you get to enjoy. But I mean, like you say, you need a time. You have to have a money
Hmm.
to enjoy the finest things. I mean, that's just like anything else in life. Okay,
Hmm.
anything else in life. I mean, I never thought about spending $3,000 on grinder. Okay, 3 grand, folks. All right. I mean, I
Yeah.
thought niche was expensive. That's 600
Mhm.
bucks.
Right.
But
So like the equipment. So like for people who get into this type of stuff, the next thing out there is then coffee, right? So like people are spending a lot of money on just coffee, right? Like in obviously you don't need the best equipment in the world
nope.
to brew some of these fantastic coffees. It helps. It can help. But like that is where like I want people to spend money on. Like I think it'd be awesome if people were spending more money on coffee, because
Yep.
I that um benefits everybody in the industry, and to the honestly the supply chain is like hopefully the money, if consumers think that coffee is more valuable, is that it's worth something, it should be expensive, like then great, right? But there are a lot of historical implications and historical reasons why coffee is seen like valued so low.
Sure.
um, and like that is a whole crazy rabbit hole and conversation to have at some point. But like it's just like I think if it's a huge problem, like, or it's a huge challenge to like change people's perception of, yeah, coffee should not be cheap, coffee should be expensive because of X, Y, and Z. And that's where you probably we will find like a lot
Yep.
of pushback from consumers
Um,
is
I
anyway.
mean, yeah, but thing is, I mean, a lot of people are drinking bad coffee over the years. So they think that all the coffees are bitter and sour, okay, or bitter and dark, because
Yeah,
again, they haven't experienced a good coffee. I mean, it's gonna be generation, okay. It's
right.
gonna be takes next 5, 10 years instead of the next couple of months or couple of years. It's gonna take a long
Oh
time.
yeah, it's gonna take a long time. But like even roasting, like there are a lot of problems currently too with like climate change. So a lot of these coffees are they're just like arabica may not even exist
Yep.
anymore, right? Stuff like that. So it there are a lot of challenges with the coffee industry from like the environment side, business side, everything. So it's a very fascinating industry to work in. I think, at least for me, I never expected to be in this type of position. But I think it's really allowed me to appreciate the work that goes into the supply chain of coffee.
Okay.
All, like sourcing, producing,
Yep.
to even like buying coffee.
Yep.
Um, that's been the fascinating journey. So
So by the way, so how many coffee roasters you guys are working with right now with Xbloom?
currently around 20,
Okay.
25,
Okay.
but we we're we kind of like are rotating on who we're selling at any sort of at any sort of time.
Okay.
But like I don't know, it's gonna it launched and now we see what happens. We hope people enjoy the machines. We hope um we hope that it works out. But the lucky thing here is that our backers seem to be very flexible on something like that. Like they understand that it's a Kickstarter product. Like, yeah, it's hard to make products.
You know what? I mean, some Kickstarter. I was talking to Bruce yesterday. He was waiting for Coffee Jack. Three
Uh,
years later, 3 years. So, I mean, a lot of Kickstarter supporter. I mean, they don't mind waiting a year or 2 years.
yeah,
So,
we're happy that we are trying to build a community now, and we are interacting with backers. It's a very fun experience for me as well. Like I've never done something like this. Like I've launched products onto websites, never actually been so, I would say, involved in the process, and that's been really rewarding. It's also been very like it's a headache too. Like there's so much going on, and building products is very difficult. But where like I'm very happy that the machine, like yesterday, people are now getting machines.
good.
And we're gonna see what happens. We're gonna get feedback from backers. We're gonna see what needs to be improved, and then we're going to like make more machines and see where this all goes. But my work is the coffee side of things, so it is been very very fun too. Like being able to work with some of these roasters has been like just very surprising for me. I never expected to be able to like meet some of these, like the champions, like all these
Yep.
champions of coffee. Um, so that's been very rewarding as well. But like, yeah, it's a job, it's a fun job, but it's also super rewarding, and I'm very happy to be working on that product, and also to have this little like YouTube thing as well.
Yep.
That's been but that's where I'm at, like with my life, my career, and kind of things that I want to do. But it's fun to be on here and chat about
So, yeah.
you.
By the way, so do you have any upcoming video coming out?
um I have a video about Indian coffee.
Okay.
Uh, there's a woman locally who does Indian coffee, and I think there's just like a lot of like there isn't enough visibility on Indian coffee, at least of like in coffee enthusiast world. Like a lot of people don't really consider Indian coffees that often. I want to make a video talking about like the things that I went over here, mainly just to be like, this is what I want to do with my career in coffee. Maybe controversial, who knows? And then I have a video that I recorded with Say, that I was in New York. It's that I think I'm gonna need a long time to finish working on. And then like maybe gonna do a video on like the fellow Opus, and then Time More. I don't know that grinder, and then
You know what? I mean, everybody's doing it. Okay, so I mean,
yeah,
yeah,
like it's just fun to play with stuff and then
yeah.
talk about. But like my interests have really shifted over to just talking about like I'm like great, I love gear, but like it's not as interesting to me anymore.
You know
I think
what?
it's so good. Everything's so good. It's like how do I talk about this? I don't know.
You know, I mean, lately I'm really getting into coffee now. I'm
Good.
looking for that. I'm looking for that coffee. You know what I mean? Looking for that really something really interesting. I
Mhm.
want something interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, like say coffee is great. Say is very classic. Okay, classic style, clean,
Mhm.
wash, process. But I
Okay.
want something really crazy anaerobic.
I I have a so I'm working. I'm gonna do. So I did a video with Preston Flower Child, right?
Yeah,
So
press. Okay.
I'm gonna do some more videos with him. But there is another guy who also roasts in Berkeley, same roasting facility, and he does crazy coffees. So
Really?
I'm gonna be doing a video with him soon, um, and where he has some crazy stuff. But like I just really like that there's this local community, at least here in the Bay Area, that I've been able to tap into and make some content with. But there is another small roaster that I'm going to show very soon on who's doing he's sourcing like some of the good stuff. Like he has La Palma, he has Diego Bermudez, he has all of that crazy stuff. But because it's small, there's a lot more attention to detail. So he can roast in a lot more. Like he roasts the crazy coffees, but on like the brighter side, like more like
Wow. Okay. So I mean,
transparent. Depends on your definition of transparent, but a bit lighter. Um, and I think that's going to be really fun to show off. But I would say, yeah, I would say like that's what's been interesting for me. Like I outside of the US, I think is where you should look if you want crazy coffees. I do really like Black and White. Black and White does some great stuff, but like they're outside of Black and White in the USA, I personally feel like yeah, I can't really think of. I can definitely think of other roasters, but like I really like Black and White for U.S. specific. So if you're trying to get stuff shipped in the U.S., would do Black and White. But the crazy stuff, there's like Japan, like Asia. The guys in Asia are crazy, and they do that. Like if you're looking for coffees that give you the kick, like look at the roasters in Asia. Apollon's Gold, Glitch, Lilo, Leaves. Um, Takamura is another one. Then in Canada, Hatch would
Hatch.
be
Yep. Yep.
would be to look for. But in the US, I think process focused. Like I haven't dug that deep into US processing outside of Black and White, just because like I haven't been that interested in very process focused coffees. Um, but like I'm starting to come around more to enjoying processed coffees, just because like even when tasting crazy complex wash coffees, I still feel like I have to think a little bit. I have
I
to be
know. Yep.
like you taste some of these coffees, you taste it, and then like a second later, then you start processing. You're like, oh, this is what's going on. With
Yep.
like process forward coffees, you're like this, like you get it up front,
Yep.
and it's
Right up
much
front.
thing. But it depends. Like this is, but I would say like um for me, I switch between stuff like Say and Manhattan.
Mhm.
Luminous is also fantastic. In Las Vegas, they're really small. They seem like they're a lot bigger than they are, but it's just two people. There's also Kim Hawk, right? Pear Cup works, but like I would really say like the Asia roasting style is very interesting and worthwhile trying. Um, that's like just fun. It's hard to get though. That's the problem, but it's
I
fun.
know. Yep.
Yeah,
Oh man,
yeah.
that is,
I have all these like Japanese coffees here that my friend gave me, like Freak, Lilo. I don't even know what this which SOT roaster is. Yeah, I think it's SOT. Like I don't know. These guys in Japan are crazy. They
you know what I mean. But Brian, I mean, you're in the right place too. I mean, living in Tucson, not a whole lot going on here. Okay.
yeah. Um like I think a lot of my growth and is has been because of the Bay Area community. It is like investing in the community has been great. Like this is why I have like friends over. Like I have one of my friends over right now because like we we like to just brew a lot of coffee and try a lot of things and share things, and that's what makes this very fun for us. Um, but like also locally, there are some fantastic
Yeah.
companies as well. There is a even like SCA training campus near here, so like we it's really nice to be in this area and like be able to tap into the community and also help build it in a little in ways. But yeah, like I think there are a lot of communities in the professional world of coffee, but I like think it's more interesting to build more like home brewer, like enthusiast focus. Because like most people are going to be normal home brewing people and aren't not everyone's a barista. So there you
You
go.
know what? One thing is, again, you're in the right place because I invite so many people to my place. Is nobody wants to show up. I told you, you get to drink some great coffee. Just come here, hang out. Yeah. Again. Uh,
One day there. I will come visit you one day.
okay, buddy. Hey, anyway, hey, so thank you so much for joining us. People just joining us. We've been talking to Brian Quan from Xbloom and also coffee YouTuber himself. I'm really looking forward to seeing your video coming out.
Mhm.
And then, are you planning on making like a video about the meticulous in future or?
Yes. So Carlos and I were trying to do well, okay, there is a this one's fun is I think I'm in a commercial for it.
Okay, good.
There's a commercial that I'm going to be in, which is going to be fun. The other thing too is when he's back here, I'd like to do a video with him about Mexican coffee and the
Okay.
why aren't there Mexican products that off or like for me I haven't seen that. And then also we were going to show off some more updates for the meticulous because there are some really cool things coming.
Okay, I cannot wait. I cannot wait. All right, buddy. Looking forward to seeing that video coming up as well. By the way, people, if you haven't subscribed Brian's channel, make sure check it out. Okay, he has a wonderful, wonderful videos and great personality. You are going to enjoy his videos. All right, buddy. Thank you.
Cool. All right. See ya.
Talk to you next time. So, Brian Quan.
All right.
So that's the Brian Quan there, and there was a lot of fun talking to Brian this afternoon. That was a last minute though. I reached
Yeah.
out to him,
Okay. All right.
like few minutes ago. And yeah, I mean, he was gracious enough to hang out with us this afternoon. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoy this content, and I'm going to see you guys next time.